Yeah, right. So it is stomach part. Stomach, we have learned about gastric juices. Stomach releases gastric juice. So that consists of gastric juice consists of
HCl, pepsin, and lipase, mucus.
mucus. Mucus, don't forget. Wonderful liquid. Okay, so these are then that makes the food medium acidic and partial digestion takes place in the stomach. With the help of sphincter muscles, the all the partially digested food will enter when it is completely full. Partial digestion has been done. Then after a sphincter muscles open, and then that partially digested food will enter the small intestine. Just before entering the small intestine, it will be having some mixed juices has been added to that. That is actually enzymes and some other juices. That is the output of pancreas and the liver gland secretion will be secreted into the stomach. Sorry, that small intestine in this one, beginning part of the small intestine. So in that, the bile one. So important one is the bile, largest gland. Liver is the largest gland, which secretes bile, which is stored in the gallbladder. So whenever it is required, it can be taken out from the bile, from the gallbladder itself. Then bile's main function, it actually do not have any enzyme, but still it is important for the digestion of fats because fats molecule is very complex one. The molecule of a fat is a big and complex. The binding between the molecules is atoms is very complex binding will be there. So digestion of that fat will not be so easy. So in such cases, the bile juice will start acting on it. It will start breaking the complex substance into the simpler one. The larger parts of globules has been converted into the smaller one because we know that its chemical reaction will be faster on smallest part, powdered substance. If we take any substance in the form of rod and the same substance, if we take it in the form of powder, the reaction will be faster in case of powdered substance. Just like you can take the iron example. Iron rod if you take, and if you take a iron powder. So in that the reaction will be faster with iron powder rather than iron rod. Reaction will take place, but the process will be longer process. So heat burning, if it is a normal burning process, burning and combining with oxygen, then the rod will take a long time because it has to be heated and the large amount of energy is needed to convert into red hot, and then only it will combine with oxygen. But if you the iron fillings, if you directly put into the this one fire, immediately it will start combining with oxygen and form iron oxide. So therefore, the fat molecules, which are complex one, has to be made into a simpler one by dividing them. It's by breaking them. It's not chemical process. It is a physical process takes place of breaking the larger molecules into the smaller ones. It's a chemical. It's not a chemical process. It is a physical process taking place. So bile juice will break that. That is we call as emulsification of fat, and as well as bile consists of some alkaline material. So those alkalis mix due to addition of those alkalis, the food medium becomes alkaline. Why food is need to be alkaline? Because all the intestinal juices works only in alkaline medium. So we need to eat some alkaline food. In the empty stomach, it is already always told don't eat any acidic food, but we do exactly a reverse. We need to eat some alkaline food. So that is generally we drink coffee and tea in the morning. Early morning, immediately we eat coffee and tea. Actually, we are aggravating our digestive system. Acid is already there. Empty stomach, the stomach HCl is waiting for the food. But what we are adding? We are adding much more amount of acid in it. So that causes the acidity problem. Slowly, that causes acidity problem, stomach irritation, stomach pain, digestion problem will start after that due to this process. So, empty stomach, we actually eat some alkaline food, just like the fruits. Fruits, most of the fruits are alkaline, so they add basicity in the body. So they are very good for the health. So empty stomach, if you eat food, that will be better rather than eating, drinking coffee or tea. Okay. So alkalinity is needed. The small intestine will work, the intestinal juices will work more better in alkaline medium. So for that thing, the gallbladder is releasing bile. That bile is making the food medium alkaline. Even there are some juices which are coming from the pancreas, which also makes the food alkaline. Sodium bicarbonate is also present in the pancreas, which is secreted. So that sodium bicarbonate makes the food medium alkaline. Along with that, pancreas also secretes some other juices, other enzymes, that is pancreatic amylase, trypsin, and lipase. So trypsin works on this trypsin is the protein digestive enzyme. Just after pepsin divides, pepsin will work on first stage, then the trypsin will work on the second stage. So once one chemical reaction taken place, peptones are converted into peptides. So peptides are further converted into different small particles, small, again the conversion, the intermediate conversion. It won't happen that is once only the protein undergo reaction and it is amino acids we got it. No, there are many intermediate reactions are there. So one compound A converted into B, B converted into C, C converted into D, D converted into E. Actually, it is a long chain. It is not so small process. It's a very, very, very long process it is. There are intermediate products. Many intermediate products are formed. So one of the intermediate product is formed by the reaction of pepsin in the small stomach. Then the second one, the in the pancreas, means just entry of the small intestine, there is a trypsin is acting on that substance. So which is again converted into B to C conversion, C to D conversion, D to E conversion, step by step. When this food is moving towards the small intestine, slowly, slowly, these changes have started taking place. So you are not supposed to learn in much detail what is happening in the small intestine. Only you have to learn that is in a small intestine, the complete digestion takes place. So there are many juices in the small intestine. So which converts finally the complete digestion takes place in the small intestine, and this complex substance that is the carbohydrates gets converted into glucose. Proteins are converted into amino acids, and fats converted into fatty acids or glycerol. Okay, so these are the complete digestion, output of the complete digestion, which are further absorbed and assimilated. So for that, first before that, the carnivorous and herbivorous having the different size of intestine. Give me a second. Okay, fine. Actually, his exams are going on. Okay, fine. So it is small intestine conversion. Small intestine, herbivorous and carnivorous. The difference in their small intestine size. What is the difference?
Ma'am, herbivores have a longer small intestine than carnivores because herbivores have cellulose. They consume cellulose, which takes more difficult to digest than meat or anything like that.
Okay. So here, first thing that's herbivores have longer short intestine, near about 9 meters long. Why they have? Because they have to eat grass. That is the cellulose they have to digest. For digesting cellulose is a complex substance. To digest that, a large number of more number of enzymes are needed, and it will take more time also. But the carnivores have to only digest meat, which is easy to digest as compared to cellulose. So therefore, they have shorter intestine because they need enzymes also, lesser number of enzymes. As well as time needed for digestion is also less. That is the reason small intestine size in carnivorous is lesser as compared to small intestine size of herbivorous. So herbivorous have near about 9 meter long small intestine. In carnivorous, it is near about 5 to 7 meters long. Okay. So in our body also appendix was there. So initially the people have, means right now also it is there, but right now it is useless. So but some of it is not giving out enzyme right now, but it produces lymphocytes, which are again needed for the building immunity system for our body. So earlier it was used earlier. Now that is because of some variations that is now non-functional at this stage. That is earlier why it is needed, because the earlier people are not eating the cooked food, so they were eating the raw food just like the herbivorous animals. So they are taking the raw food, raw root, raw fruits, raw leaves they are eating and digesting. For that purpose they are also eating the cellulose, so they need that enzymes which is required to digest cellulose. So appendix was the part of the body which is actually giving out enzymes which are required for digesting cellulose. So right now we have completely changed our this one food variation of the food we have done. So that is now we are you eating those raw materials which is easily digestible. That's it only we are eating. We are not eating all of them. Generally we use all boiled foods only we are taking it. That means already partially digested food only we are actually using it. Boiled food, cooked food we are eating now. Therefore cellulose is not needed to be digested. It is getting converted into some other form by boiling. So therefore it was not, now it is not necessary to this direct cellulose is not entering in our body, so it will not need a digestion. So enzymes required for that digestion, the complex enzyme required for the digestion of that is not required. So therefore slowly the appendix becomes a non-functional vestigial organ. We call it as a vestigial organ. Maybe some after some generation that may happen, that is that will not be there in the body also. Okay, so that happens due to variations. Now this is the part, and then absorption and assimilation process. Absorption, that is the small intestine. Inner wall of small intestine has millions of finger-like projections called as villi. So those villi increases the area of absorption of this digested food, and then it is absorbed and it is richly supplied with blood capillaries, so which increases the uh, rate of absorption of these digested food. So this food now enters the blood, and through the blood it is transported to each and every cell where it is ready for oxidation. Oxygen is already waiting for that food, so oxygen will oxidize that glucose and produce energy. So ultimately we are need of this food is production of energy. So after absorption and assimilation process, it is utilization. It is done by the process of respiration process. Okay, so respiration process, that food is required for the process of respiration. So after digestion, the respiration starts, which utilizes this absorbed food, where oxygen combines with glucose and produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Carbon dioxide is waste, it is taken out. Water useful for other metabolic activities. And then the energy, which is stored in the form of ATP, and whenever it is needed, it is utilized again. Clear? Then the next part is here, digested food has gone, utilized, formed energy. Now undigested food from small intestine enters the large intestine. The function of large intestine, two functions of large intestine.
Now, reabsorb.
Yes, reabsorption.
It'll absorb the water, excess water from the undigested.
Yes, excess water from the undigested food, it is take out. That is, villi are present in small intestine, large intestine as well. So the function of villi here, the reabsorption of water. So it will absorb water from the undigested food, and undigested food will remain stored in large intestine for some duration, and which is expelled out with the help of anus. Anal sphincter is present. So according to the will, it is expelled out, egested out. So that process is called as esation. So esation process takes place through large intestine. Clear? With the help of anal sphincter. Okay, so two functions, large intestine. One is storage of the undigested food for some duration before egesting out. And the another one is absorption of water with the help of villi. Clear? That is the part of human digestive tract, digestions. So every gland's function, you have to remember what every gland is doing, what are they secreting, and what component of the food they are working on. Okay. So this is all about the digestion process. So next process is respiration process. So respiration, the 3-mark question, which is always asked. It's every paper you will see that question, which is, what is respiration means? What do you mean by respiration process?
Ma'am, breakdown of glucose in a stepwise manner to release energy.
Yes. Breakdown of glucose to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Is actually important as energy. Every time water is not necessarily formed, carbon dioxide and energy production by the process of breakdown of glucose, or instead of breakdown word we can use as oxidation of glucose. Instead of actual word is oxidation of glucose to produce carbon dioxide and energy is called as respiration process. So C6H12O6 plus oxygen. This is the aerobic respiration. Oxygen, it gives out 6CO2 plus 12H2O six H2O plus heat, which is stored in the form of ATP molecules. So here this is not the continuous process. It is not a, means it's a one-step process, continuous process it is. Now here respiration is divided into aerobic and anaerobic. So in aerobic respiration takes place in presence of oxygen. Anaerobic in absence of oxygen. Okay, this is first part. Second part,
More
produce carbon dioxide, water, and heat. Here it will produce
Ethanol, dioxide, and energy.
ethanol and energy or lactic acid. Lactic acid and energy is produced. Third part,
More energy is produced here.
yes, large amount of energy is produced. And here, less amount of energy is produced. One more point,
Complete breakdown of glucose.
complete breakdown and takes place in mitochondria. Complete breakdown of glucose and takes place in mitochondria. So here partial breakdown. And here takes place in cytoplasm. Then steps of respiration. First is glucose in cytoplasm converted into pyruvate. Okay, that is, this is carbon 6 compound converted into carbon 3 compounds. So 3 carbon atom compound is produced. This is 6 carbon atom compound. Now this pyruvate, it is a common part. This step is common for all the respiration processes. Further, the pyruvate's conversion is depends on presence or absence of oxygen. Now pyruvate, the oxygen is not available, absence of oxygen. This takes place again in cytoplasm itself. Yeast cell. In this, it will form ethanol plus energy, CO2 plus energy is produced. Second one is lack of oxygen. So amount of oxygen is less in muscle cells. The pyruvate gets converted into lactic acid and energy is produced. And the third one in presence of oxygen. This flow chart is very important. Presence of oxygen, and this process takes place in mitochondria. It will produce carbon dioxide, water, and heat energy.
Ma'am, in the second case, is that also produced in the cytoplasm, like the
Yeah,
process?
this is, yes, it is cytoplasm.
Okay.
So whenever there is oxygen is available, then only mitochondria. No oxygen, only cytoplasm. If oxygen is present, then only the cytoplasm will send that pyruvate to mitochondria. Otherwise, it will not send. Okay.
Ma'am, can you just go and come back for a second?
Okay, fine. Okay, so this part is very important. Just remember the place and what are the outputs. So this is about the respiration process, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and breakdown of glucose. The complete process of breakdown of glucose. Sometimes they will ask you all three. Sometimes they will ask you only yeast cell. Sometimes they will ask you for muscle cells. So whenever they are asking for the muscle cells, you have to explain both of this, lack of oxygen also and presence of oxygen also, because muscle cells are not always respiring in lack of oxygen. Only when you have done means any person is doing heavy exercise or strained work they have to do, so more work where the muscles are required, more muscle movement has been done, at that time only they have to respire faster because they need more energy. At that time they will not wait, those cells will not wait for oxygen and start respiring anaerobically. Clear? But in normal cases, when person is not doing any heavy exercise, he is normally walking, normally sitting. So at that place, when you are not using much more amount of muscle cells, so the normal respiration is going on. So for the normal respiration, it will as per the other cells, the muscle cells are behaving. So they are producing carbon dioxide, water, and heat energy. Clear? Now the amount of heat energy is stored in the ATP molecules. ATP molecules means the binding the phosphate molecule to ADP. So here whenever the energy is produced, so that energy is utilized. The energy produced, whatever the amount of energy is produced in this process, that is utilized to combine this phosphate molecule to ADP. So energy used to bind phosphate molecules to ADP molecules to form ATP molecules. So ADP, A and there DP, the two phosphate molecules were present already. Adenosine has two phosphate molecules, that is ADP molecule. So one more phosphate molecules to connecting one more phosphate molecules, the energy is utilized. So energy is stored in the form of binding this phosphate molecule. So whenever energy is required now, so we have to take back. So it is for any process energy is needed. That is when you are running, you need more energy. So at that time, the energy will come out. So how it will come out? This bond will break. So when one bond will break, 38.5 kilojoules of energy will be released. And that energy is utilized by only one molecule. So there are millions of molecules of ATP are present inside the mitochondria. So one by one, if it is keep giving out, it will give out whatever the required amount of energy will be produced. Yes, Rishi?
Ma'am, in the steps of respiration there, and the second step, it's converted into pyruvate, right?
Yeah.
And that even energy is also released, right?
Yes, it is right. It is energy is also released. Some amount of energy is also released.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, so you said that when the bond breaks, it's 38.5 kilojoules, right?
Yeah.
So is it the same for all bond or does it go decreasing? Like first is more.
No, equal amount of energy is needed to bind that phosphate.
So when each bond breaks, it's still 38.5. It doesn't go decreasing like 38.5 or anything like that. No?
No,
Oh, okay, ma'am.
it was a similar type of, exactly a particular type of energy is required to bind that phosphate to adenosine. So every molecules are binded. So from where the kinetic energy and potential energy when we are talking about. So what is that actually? The energy present in binding that two elements, two atoms.
Ma'am,
Yes.
is the energy released by the break of one bond a big amount, like compared to how much the body uses, or is it just a small amount?
It's just a small amount. There's no only one. So internal molecules, one bond was broken, it is okay. But when you are walking and all those, that time many number of phosphate bonds are broken. In every muscle cell, that phosphate bond will be broken.
Okay, ma'am.
So that is sufficient for only one cell, not for the whole body. Okay. Even not only for physical exercise, what you're doing, physical work you're doing, internal work also, the movement, the peristaltic movement of this in abdomen, even the lungs, the heart, pumping of the heart, the movement of the lungs, the movement of blood, even the movement of information through nerves tissues. So everything needs energy. A large amount of energy is needed in our body for the movement of information, electrical impulse movement. It needs a large amount of energy. So therefore, while you are sleeping, at that time also energy is utilized for all these processes, information traveling process, memory storage process. So by the brain, the energy is large amount of energy is needed by the brain. So therefore, when you do not eat anything for a longer duration, after fasting, immediately headache starts. Why? Have you thought of? Irritation in the head muscles, that is a brain muscles, because the brain needs large amount of oxygen, because it needs large amount of energy, so it needs a large amount of oxygen as well as food also, because the process of electrical impulse transmission is much more energy required process. Without energy, that process cannot be done. That is the reason if you have not eaten food, fast food, you are on a fasting, that time you cannot concentrate on anything, because brain is not working properly as it is not getting proper food and oxygen. So availability of oxygen is much more needed for the nervous tissues, neurons, and brain cells, spinal cord. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Then respiration, then respiratory system in the human body. Respiratory system, that is we inhale through the nasal cavity, the air is inhaled. The hair mucus present in the nasal cavity above the mouth through the nose, whatever the cavity is present, that we call as nasal cavity. So inside that, hair is available, hairs are present, as well as mucus is also present. What is the function of hair and mucus? So hair is the first filter organ. So it will filter out the dust particles. So it will not allow, due to the presence of hair, the dust particles, any solid impurities will not move in. So it is with the help of hair, the first filtration takes place. Along with the air, whatever the solid impurities are there, they remain stuck in that cavity, in the hair. And then the mucus is present. In the mucus itself, the many microbes will stuck in that mucus, and it will make the air moistened. So moisture is added to the air, then only the air will move in. A dry air moves in, it is irritation in our nasal cavity immediately. So whenever you inhale any dry air, at that time you start sneezing more, or that time it will be much more irritation in the pharynx as well as in the nasal cavity. So you have much more irritation. So that is because moisture is very, very important. So that mucus, presence of the mucus glands in the nasal cavity adds mucus into the mucus, that is a moisture in the air. So that moist air enters the windpipe, that is trachea. So above the windpipe, there is one leaf-like aperture is present, that is called as glottis. Above windpipe, that is above trachea, So when through the nasal cavity, the this one enters through the nasal cavity. Here it is a pharynx area, and then the windpipe is here. That is a trachea is present. C-shaped cartilage. It protects by the C-shaped cartilage like this. Above here, there is a leaf-like aperture is present near the larynx region, the voice box. There is one leaf-like aperture is present that is called as epiglottis. Glottis and the small, that area is called glottis, and the small leaf-like portion aperture is called epiglottis. The function of epiglottis is to cover trachea when you are swallowing any food. When you are swallowing any food, epiglottis covers the windpipe for a second's time, microsecond time. So at that time, why it is so? Why it is needed to cover it?
So that doesn't go into the windpipe instead of the food pipe.
Yeah. So the food should enter only the esophagus, not the trachea. So one single, this one also, food particle should not enter trachea. So whenever we are inhaling, we are swallowing anything, the food should pass through esophagus, not through trachea. That is done by a precautionary measure, that is a leaf-like aperture is present. It will immediately cover the trachea. Therefore, food will not enter. The hiccups, because of this, if there is any single food particle enters the trachea, we start hiccups. That is to remove that particle from the trachea.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
ma'am, so when you get hiccups, ma'am, people ask you to drink water. So how is it even helping this then?
So it is creating some vacuum-like areas.
Now, how does drinking water create a vacuum-like
So
area?
whatever it is stuck in, it is actually won't go inside. It is near the epiglottis, it is stuck. The food is stuck. So it is the opening is near the water. So along with the water, that may be taken out.
Oh, okay, ma'am.
So a complete exhaling, continuous exhaling also work out, or don't this one take don't breathe for some duration. Just like it is told that is close your nose for and count till 7. Generally, my parents do that one. They generally tell us that is completely block your nose and mouth both, and count it for 7, only 7, no, not more than that. So that is, it is initial process will take place, and immediately the leaf, this one near the epiglottis, any food particle is there, it will come out into the pharynx again, because inner air in the lungs, whatever the air is there, that is exhaling it out. It is when it is exhaled out, it will come out of it. Okay, so it will not enter, it will come out through the exhaled air. So when we have taken in some air, but now it is moving out, it will move out through the epiglottis, through that trachea itself. So it will take it out. Even the water it is near the pharynx, it will enter to this part is there, it will help out, not always. So this part, it will take it out. With the help of water, it can be rushed out.
Many people say that when we start hiccups, right? When we get hiccups, that time, like our elders say that somebody is remembering us. Like, is that true?
No.
That's not true, right?
No, it's not true.
Ma'am, I'll just be sitting like this and suddenly I'll get hiccups. I don't know why. That happens always.
That happens. While sometimes that happens, yes. While eating something, just after eating, we keep on digesting. At that time, some digestive juice also comes out. Sometimes the swallowed this food particle was there in the mouth, which was stuck. After some time, it has moved down. That may happen. Fine. So that is then trachea. Trachea has a C-shaped cartilage which prevents collapsing of the air passage. So that is, there is no vacuum structure is created which blocks the trachea. That won't happen. So cartilaginous C-shaped cartilage, that is a cartilaginous structure, is present on the trachea to prevent collapsing of air. Collapsing of air passage. Collapsing means becoming a vacuum. That won't happen. Okay. So, and then the trachea further enters the lungs, each lungs. that is called as bronchi. Bronchi further divides into bronchioles, primary bronchi, secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, and then bronchioles. At the end, balloon-like structures called alveoli. So lungs are designed for the exchange. How are the lungs are designed for the exchange of gases? So trachea enters each lungs divides into primary, secondary, tertiary bronchi. Then each bronchi end up with the bronchioles, and at the end again the small balloon-like structures are present, which we call as alveoli. Millions of alveoli are present in each lung. They are richly supplied with blood capillaries and one cell thick. So due to which they can expand more, and due to expansion, they take in more amount of air, more amount of blood is already reached alveoli. So both through that, the exchange of gases takes place. Air has more amount of oxygen. Blood near the blood capillaries of the alveoli, there is a less amount of oxygen. So oxygen will move from higher concentration to lower concentration, that is from alveoli to blood. So this is alveoli, one balloon. In this air, more oxygen, and here which is the blood capillary has reached. In this blood, oxygen is less. So more oxygen, and in this blood, less oxygen. So oxygen will move from more concentration to lesser concentration. So that is oxygen will enter from alveoli to blood. Now this blood combines, this oxygen combines with hemoglobin. Oxygen plus hemoglobin forms oxyhemoglobin. And it is transported along. Now that blood will become oxygenated blood, and that blood will move towards the heart through pulmonary vein. With the help of, this is a pulmonary vein. With the help of pulmonary vein, the blood will enter into the heart, move towards the heart. Now, this one, and then this blood has, when it is came in here at this place, it is blood reaches, and that is deoxygenated blood. That means it has more carbon dioxide, and this air has less carbon dioxide, 0.03%, and here only carbon dioxide is present, oxygen is not present. So that means more carbon dioxide is in the blood, and in the alveoli there is less carbon dioxide. So diffusion again takes place. The carbon dioxide will move from blood to alveoli. So this way, depending on the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place in the alveoli. The blood which reaches the alveoli, that place near the capillaries, in the capillaries, this change has taken place. So oxygen will move from alveoli to blood, and the carbon dioxide move from blood to alveoli. Now the blood is rich in oxygen, that is oxygenated blood will taken into the blood. It is towards the heart, and from the heart it is transported to each and every cell further with the help of artery. Now this is carbon dioxide. This alveoli has more amount of carbon dioxide. Now when we exhale, that carbon dioxide is eliminated in the air. So we are giving out carbon dioxide. It's clear? So along with carbon dioxide, some other gases are also there. Those are also exhaled out. But some amount of air will always present in each alveoli, which keeps this respiration process continuous, which due to the presence of this air in the alveoli, that we call as residual volume, the continuous process of exchange of gases takes place. It is not discontinuous. That means only when air comes in, that time only exchange taken place. When air is going out, the exchange stops. That won't happen. It is a continuous process. Continuously, the exchange of gases are taking place, because whenever we are exhaling to a large amount, also we are exhaling out, some amount of air will be always present in this alveoli. So that amount of air present in the alveoli is called as residual volume. Residual volume ensures continuous supply of oxygen, or the time, it will give time for the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Clear? The carbon dioxide, oxygen, it is transported in the form of, when it combines with hemoglobin present in the RBCs of the blood, and in the form of oxyhemoglobin, it is transported to each and every cell of the body. And from every cell, the carbon dioxide is collected in the blood. In the blood, it dissolves in plasma. So the carbon dioxide dissolves in plasma, and then with the help of plasma, it is transported towards alveoli. Clear how the oxygen and carbon dioxide transportation takes place? Question is asked, how the oxygen and carbon dioxide transportation takes place. Oxygen transported in the form of, oxygen combines with hemoglobin present in the RBCs and forms oxyhemoglobin. In that form, it is transported from lungs to cells, and then carbon dioxide from cell enters the blood, dissolves into plasma. With the help of blood plasma, it is transported to towards lungs for eliminating it out. It's clear? Now this is then here how lungs are designed for increasing the area of exchange. 3 points, always remember. 1, lungs, trachea divides into many bronchi, and finally end up to form the small balloon, millions of balloon-like structures called as alveoli. Second part, alveoli are richly supplied with blood capillaries. Third part, the alveoli are one cell thick structures. Yeah. Yeah. Then the respiration in other animals, fishes,
Ma'am, through gills,
through gills. Okay. Frogs,
through their skin.
And also lungs.
And lungs.
skin and lungs only.
Ma'am, and when they're tadpoles, I think they have gills.
Yes. Gills in the initial stage, mature state, adult stage, lungs and skin both. Okay. Gills are not present. After that, when they are moving into the water, so they have the skin for their respiration. Only in the initial stage, they have gills. So that time only when they are water. So there is a first life cycle. So first stage starts in the water itself. So they lay eggs in the water. So in the water, they have gills for the respiration. Now when they come out when they are adult stage, they come out of the water. So that time on land, they don't have gills. They have to work with the lungs. Now after that, when they enter also, they swim in the water. So at that time, with the help of skin, moist skin they have. So through that skin, they can respire. Okay, so they don't have gills when they are adult. So at that time, if they enter for the reproduction process, they have to enter the water. So at that time, they are respiring through moist skin. Okay, then earthworm,
Skin.
Skin.
skin. Then higher order, That is reptiles, aves, mammals,
Lungs.
lungs. After that, everyone has lungs. Cockroach has trachea. Cockroach and insects. Arthropods generally have trachea for the respiration process. Spiracles, trachea. Okay, spiracles, whatever you call it as. Fine. In plants, the same thing. Respiration takes place through stomata. But here it is it won't happen. That is, don't think that is a photosynthesis is going on in the morning time. So respiration, they won't do respiration. So most of the people have this thing in mind. That is, photosynthesis takes place in daytime, and this respiration takes place at night time. That's completely wrong. Photosynthesis. Yes.
Ma'am, can I just go and come back for a second?
Okay, fine. Okay. So, photosynthesis only taken place during daytime. Nighttime that won't happen. But respiration is a continuous process. It don't have any time. That is, this time they are respiring, that time they are not respiring. No, not possible. Plants are also respiring continuously, but the amount of carbon dioxide they give out, there is some limit. It will not give out all the amount of carbon dioxide just like we are exhaling out. They also exhales, but during daytime that carbon dioxide remains stored in the body itself because that is further utilized for photosynthesis process. And whatever the oxygen is given out by the process of photosynthesis, that is utilized again back for the process of respiration. So sometimes some plants gives out some amount of oxygen and some amount of carbon dioxide. Some of the plants won't give out oxygen and carbon dioxide during daytime. But at night time, the carbon dioxide is continuously given out because the carbon dioxide is not useful during night time because photosynthesis is not happening. Therefore, carbon dioxide released by the process of respiration is not useful. So therefore, it will not remain stored in the plant body. So therefore, during night time, plants give more amount of carbon dioxide rather than during daytime. Whatever the amount they are giving out during daytime, at night time is much higher. So that is the reason it was told, don't sleep near the huge tree. Below the huge tree, don't sleep at night. Generally, in the earlier people used to, while they're traveling, they used to stay at one place. That time there was no places to stay, so they were sitting in the forest region. They generally just were sleeping near the trees. Any of the trees they find out, and near that they were sleeping. So that is always prevented because the huge trees is giving out more amount of carbon dioxide. In the forest region, amount of carbon dioxide increases during night time. So therefore, it is always prescribed not to sleep near the huge trees or in the forest region at night because the oxygen level decreases. Okay.
And what will happen if we do so? What will happen if we sleep?
Amount of oxygen decreases, so you have to come out of that area. Sometimes it won't happen, that is we are not able to get a sufficient amount of oxygen, that won't happen. But if it is a dense forest, marshy lands are there nearby, then it is a trouble because it is much more carbon dioxide we are inhaling, we are not getting oxygen, then how we will survive. Okay, we need oxygen for respiration. Okay, so that is all about the respiration process. Then the next part is transportation. Transportation part is divided into two main parts. Always remember the components of transportation system and the components of circulatory system. The two different questions they have asked. They should know the difference actually. What is transportation system? Transportation in humans or in animals we are considering right now. Transportation system consists of two parts. Circulatory system and lymphatic system. So components of transportation system, it is asked, then you have to show that circulatory system and lymphatic system. But if they have asked about the circulatory system, then you have to add three parts, that is heart, blood vessel, and blood. The components of circulatory system is heart, blood vessels, and blood. Okay. Lymphatic system, lymph vessels. They have asked this question separately. They have asked one question for 3 marks for explaining transportation system. And the same year in second paper, they have asked the components of circulatory system for 2 marks. Now you should be very careful about what the question they have asked. It is confusing. Most of the students don't know this. The students are combining the same thing, transportation system and circulatory system. They are making it equal. So when the question is asked for 3 marks, they will ask you the transportation system. The transportation system, you have to explain all these 5. The transportation system, you have to explain circulatory as well as lymphatic. Circulatory system consists of heart, blood vessels, and blood. And the lymphatic system consists of lymph and lymph vessels. Clear?
Ma'am, do we have to explain the heart, the blood vessels, and blood also? If the
The
question is
main
asked
parts
about
is not
transportation.
needed. The full explanation is not needed. Yes, some amount of heart. What is the function of heart? Heart pumps the blood from to or from lungs and to or from cells.
And same for
One
lymphatic
function
system.
is not needed much more things.
And same for lymphatic system, right?
Same thing. Everything. Blood vessels also. There are 3 types of a blood vessels. Blood vessels' main function is to carry blood. Whether it is oxygenated or deoxygenated, blood vessels have the function of carrying blood. There are 3 types of blood vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries, again you have to explain arteries. But if it is for more marks, you have to explain all these parts. Arteries carries blood away from the heart. Veins carries the blood towards the heart. And capillaries is the connection between the arteries and veins, and through which the exchange of substances takes place. Only one line explanation, not in depth. But you have to explain for 3 marks they have asked. You have to explain these all parts. And lymphatic system, lymph and lymph vessels. Lymph is the fluid tissue. The leaked out part, it consists of more amount of protein and fats. Protein, less amount of protein actually. Protein, fat, intercellular fluid. It is constitutes lymph. Lymph transports through lymph vessels. That's it. And then pour that extracellular fluid into vein. That much only you have to explain about the lymph. Okay, we'll take the remaining part of this tomorrow also. So tomorrow you have both classes, maths and science both. Okay, same time, no test. Okay, so transportation system and excretory system we can complete tomorrow. Okay, fine.
Saturday we have test, right?
Yeah, Saturday you have a test.
Apparently,
No, we will do Saturday.
CAM
This
scanner has been banned.
it is Adobe Scan you can install. Adobe Scan.
Adobe Scan, okay.
Yeah. You can uninstall CAM Scanner. And Adobe Scan you can install.
Why should we uninstall Cam Scanner?
It was banned.
Or banned or something.
It's a Chinese app. You can uninstall it. But before that, all your papers, you this one save somewhere.
Okay, ma'am.
So
Which app should we install instead of CAM Scanner?
it works the same. Okay. But you have to practice.
We have to pay for it, ma'am.
No. Adobe Scan, no. It's a free app. But you have to start practicing somewhat. It's needed to be practiced 1-2 times. It's not so easy as CAM Scanner. Somewhat. No, it can be done. The same function it is. Function is exactly same. But some part is extra needed. That's